The second shaft. The eastern boundary of the Mackenzie claim was a fold in the prairie that most travelers wouldn't notice. A shallow depression where runoff had carved a coulee barely deep enough to hide a man on horseback. James had ridden past it 100 times without giving it much thought. Now, as dawn painted the grass gold and the horses picked their way down the gentle slope, he saw it with new eyes. "There," Samuel Thornton said, pointing toward a cluster of wild rose bushes that clung to the coulee's north face. "If I wanted to hide a mine shaft on this land, that's where I'd put it." James studied the terrain. The rose bushes were dense and thorny, their late-season blooms faded to brown. Behind them, the coulee wall rose perhaps 15 feet. Not dramatic, but enough to create shadow and concealment. A person could work there for hours without being visible from the homestead or the main trail. "William Garrett knew this land," Eleanor said quietly. She sat behind James on his horse, her arms around his waist, her cheek pressed against his back. "He would have explored every fold and hollow." "And Blackwood knew," Daniel added. "He rode beside Sarah, his left arm still bound close to his body, his face drawn with pain he wouldn't acknowledge. That's why he was so desperate to get this claim. Not just for one mine, for both." Edmund Whitmore, who had insisted on accompanying them despite having no horse of his own and needing to ride double with one of Samuel's ranch hands, cleared his throat. "The question is whether he filed any claim at all. If there's no paperwork on the second shaft, it legally doesn't exist. Which means whoever files first." "We know," James interrupted. "That's why we're here at dawn instead of sleeping." They reached the rose bushes as the sun cleared the horizon. Up close, James could see what he'd missed from a distance. The bushes weren't naturally placed. They'd been transplanted here, their roots shallow in the thin soil. And behind them, half hidden by fallen branches and prairie grass, was a timber frame. James dismounted, helped Eleanor down, then pushed through the thorny branches. The wood beneath was weathered but solid, and when he cleared away the debris, he found himself looking at a shaft entrance much more carefully constructed than the first one. This had a proper timber frame, a wooden ladder descending into darkness, and, his heart quickened, fresh scratch marks on the frame where someone had recently cleared away vegetation. "Blackwood's been here," he said. "Recently." Samuel was already tying the horses. "Then we need to see what's down there before word spreads. Daniel, you stay up top with that arm." "Like hell." "Daniel." Sarah's voice was firm. "You can't climb one-handed, and if you fall, you'll tear those stitches. Please." The look that passed between them made James remember being young and stubborn and desperately in love. Daniel's jaw worked, but he nodded. James went first, testing each rung before trusting his weight to it. The shaft was deeper than the first one, much deeper. His boots found solid rock after the first 20 feet, and the air grew noticeably cooler. Behind him, Eleanor descended with the same careful precision she brought to everything, and Samuel brought up the rear. At the bottom, James struck a match. The flame revealed a horizontal tunnel, properly shored with timber, extending into the hillside. This wasn't an abandoned prospect hole. This was a working mine. "God in heaven," Eleanor whispered. They moved forward, James lighting matches as they went. The tunnel ran straight for perhaps 50 feet, then opened into a natural cavern. And there, in the flickering matchlight, James saw what William Garrett had found. The silver vein wasn't hidden in the rock. It was the rock. The entire back wall of the cavern gleamed with metallic ore, a deposit so rich that even James, who knew nothing of mining, could recognize its value. "This is what Blackwood killed for," Samuel said quietly. "Not the first shaft, this." Eleanor's hand found James's in the darkness. "How much is it worth?" "Thousands," Samuel said. "Maybe tens of thousands, maybe more. I'm not a mining man, but I've seen ore before. Nothing like this." James's match burned down to his fingers. He dropped it and struck another, studying the cavern. There were tools here, picks and shovels, a wheelbarrow, even a small cart on wooden rails. Garrett had been working this mine systematically, probably planning to file a claim once he'd assessed the full extent of the deposit, and Blackwood had killed him for it. "We need to file today," James said. "This morning, before anyone else figures out where this is." "Agreed," Samuel said, "but we also need to secure it. If word gets out, and it will, You'll have every prospector and claim jumper in the territory trying to find this spot. They climbed back up to find Daniel and Sarah standing close together, her hand on his good arm, both of them scanning the prairie horizon. Edmund Whitmore sat on a rock, making notes in a small leather book. "Well?" the lawyer asked. "It's real," James said, "and it's rich, richer than anything I've seen." Whitmore nodded, unsurprised. "Then we ride to Medicine Hat immediately. I'll file the claim at the land office, you'll pay the fees, and we'll have the survey done within the week. After that, we guard it," Samuel said, "day and night, because once word spreads, you'll have company." Sarah was looking at the rose bushes, her brow furrowed. Who else knew about this? Garrett, obviously. Blackwood. But who else? "Robert Caine," Eleanor said grimly. "He was Blackwood's right hand. He knew everything Blackwood knew." "And Caine is still alive," Daniel said. "Still out there somewhere." The words hung in the morning air like a threat. James had been so focused on Blackwood, on the immediate danger, that he'd almost forgotten about Caine. The man had been left in the mine, and no one had seen him since. The mounted police were looking for him, but the territory was vast, and a man who knew the country could hide for months. "He'll come back," Sarah said quietly. "He knows about the mine. He knows we have evidence against him. He'll come back." "Then we'll be ready," James said with more confidence than he felt. "But first, we secure our legal claim. Everything else comes after." They rode back toward the homestead, the sun climbing higher, the prairie stretching endlessly in all directions. Thomas was waiting on the porch, and when he saw them coming, he ran, his small legs pumping, his face transformed with joy. James dismounted and caught his son, lifting him high, feeling the boy's arms wrap around his neck with desperate strength. "You came back," Thomas said, his voice muffled against James's shoulder. "You came back." "I'll always come back," James promised. "Always." Eleanor joined them, and for a moment, they were just a family again. Tired, scared, but together. Then Mary Campbell emerged from the soddy, wiping her hands on her apron, and the moment expanded to include the community that had kept them alive. "We need to talk," James said to Mary, to the other families who had gathered. "All of us, about what comes next." They gathered in the yard, the Campbells, the Thorntons, Peter Reed and his wife Margaret, even old Johann Schmidt, who had ridden over at dawn to see if the Mackenzies had returned safely. James stood before them, Eleanor at his side, and told them about the second shaft, about the wealth hidden in their coulee, about the legal battles still to come. "We meant what we said," Eleanor added. "If this mine produces, you all share in it. You stood with us when it would have been easier to stay away. You risked your lives and your homesteads. We don't forget that." "That's generous," Mary Campbell said carefully, "but it's also dangerous. If word gets out that you're planning to share profits, every opportunist in the territory will try to befriend you, claim they helped, demand a peace. Then we keep it between us," Samuel said. "The people in this circle right now, no one else needs to know. And we need guards," Daniel said. "At the mine starting today. If Caine is still out there, he knows what's at stake. He might try to jump the claim, destroy evidence, anything." "I'll take first watch," Peter Reed said. "Johann, you're with me?" The old German nodded. "Ja, we guard." Edmund Whitmore had been listening quietly, still making notes. Now he cleared his throat. "There's another matter we need to discuss. The banknote." James felt his stomach sink. In all the chaos, he'd almost forgotten. "We have 10 days left." "Actually," Whitmore said, consulting his notes, "you have 8, but that's not the issue. The issue is that once news of the mine spreads, and it will spread, the bank will know you have potential assets. They may try to foreclose anyway, claiming the right to seize the mine as payment." "Can they do that?" Eleanor asked sharply. "It's legally complex. The mine claim is separate from the homestead claim, but if they can argue that the mine is part of the homestead property, they might have standing. It depends on how the paperwork is filed and how aggressive they want to be." Sarah spoke up. "So we pay them. We take out a loan against the mine's future value and pay off the note. No reputable lender will loan against an unproven mine," Whitmore said. "And any lender willing to do so will charge interest that amounts to theft." "Then what do we do?" Thomas asked, his small voice cutting through the adult conversation. "Are we going to lose our home?" The question silenced everyone. James looked at his son, at the fear in his eyes, and felt the weight of every decision pressing down on him. "No," he said firmly, "we're not going to lose our home. We'll find a way." But even as he said it, he could see the doubt in the faces around him. They'd survived Blackwood, survived the siege, found the mine. But the legal and financial battles ahead might be just as dangerous and much harder to fight. "I have some money saved," Samuel said quietly. "Not much, but enough to help." "We all do," Mary Campbell added. "If we pool what we have—" "No," James said. "You've done enough. You've risked enough. We'll figure this out." "You'll figure it out together," Eleanor corrected gently. "That's what James means. We'll figure it out together." The distinction mattered. James saw it in the faces around him, the shift from charity to partnership, from helping to joining. They weren't the Mackenzies alone anymore. They were part of something larger. "First things first," Whitmore said. "We file the mining claim. That gives you legal standing. Then we deal with the bank, the lien, and everything else. One step at a time." James nodded. "Samuel, Daniel, can you organize the watch rotation? Peter, Johann, you're on first shift. Eleanor, we need to gather the filing fees. Sarah, I'll help Mother," Sarah said. "And Thomas needs breakfast." The group dispersed, each person moving with purpose. James watched them go, feeling the strange mixture of hope and dread that had become familiar these past weeks. They'd found the mine. They'd survived, but the hardest part might still be ahead. Edmund Whitmore approached him as the others left. "Mr. Mackenzie, a word?" James nodded, and they walked a short distance from the soddy. "I need to be clear about something," Whitmore said. "Once we file that claim, you'll become a target. Not just from Caine, though he's certainly a threat. From lawyers, speculators, people who will try to find any legal angle to take the mine from you. They'll dig into your past, your family, your finances. They'll look for any weakness." "I have nothing to hide," James said. "Everyone has something to hide," Whitmore said quietly. "The question is whether your something is enough to matter. I need to know now, before we file, if there's anything in your history that could be used against you. Debts, disputes, legal troubles, anything." James thought of Ontario, of the farm they'd left behind, of the reasons they'd come west. Nothing criminal, nothing shameful. Just the ordinary failures of a man trying to provide for his family. "Nothing that matters," he said. "Then we proceed." Whitmore offered his hand. "But know this, the next few months will test you in ways the siege didn't. Blackwood tried to take your land with violence. The men coming next will try to take it with paperwork, and that's a fight most homesteaders lose." James shook the lawyer's hand, feeling the truth of the words. "Then we won't be most homesteaders." As Whitmore walked back toward the soddy, James stood alone in the prairie morning. The sun was fully up now, the grass golden, the sky that particular shade of blue that made the horizon seem impossibly distant. Somewhere out there, Robert Caine was watching, waiting. Somewhere, men were already hearing rumors of silver. Somewhere, the machinery of law and finance was preparing to grind them down. But here, now, his family was safe. His son was fed. His wife stood beside him as an equal partner, and beneath their feet, hidden in the folded prairie, was a fortune that could change everything. If they could hold on to it. If they could survive what came next. If. James turned back toward the soddy, toward the life they'd built and the future they might claim, and saw Eleanor standing in the doorway, watching him. She didn't smile. There was too much uncertainty ahead for that, but she nodded once, a gesture of solidarity that meant more than words. He started walking toward her, and behind him the prairie stretched endlessly away, holding its secrets close, waiting to see what these stubborn, determined people would make of the fortune and the danger they'd found beneath its unforgiving soil.